Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and today we're going to jump into the mechanics of your swing. I'll give you some advice on some in-game pressures, but first we're going to wrap up this Women's History Month by giving you guys my Mount Rushmore of female athletes. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome once again to the show. So as promised, I'm going to kick this thing off with my Mount Rushmore of female athletes as we wrap up Women's History Month here in March. Always going to salute our ladies out there. Shout out to the athletes and all the women of the world. Y'all, this was a tough one though. As you know, Mount Rushmore, only 4 heads carved in the side of the mountain. And but I had about 8 or 9 truly in my top 4 that I had to just I had to shave off a couple of obviously to get this list trimmed all the way down to where I wanted it. So forgive me if I left off one of your favorites, but I'm gonna kick this off with probably one of my all-time favorites that I grew up on, Serena Williams. That's my girl, man. I felt like Serena truly dominated sports. She really revolutionized the game of tennis, in my opinion, because tennis has for so long, even now that Serena's been retired over the last few years, like it's a finesse game, and I felt like she brought this sense of power and style and flair, and just true dominance to the game of tennis like nobody else could, and it really made for a um, a different style of play. And a lot of folks, her opponents kind of had to adapt to her. And honestly, a lot of people didn't really get a hang of her. I mean, she won, I think, a record 23 Grand Slams, which was the most by any male or woman in the Open era. And so when you think about like what that means, like you just think about dominating your sport to the point of like Vegas is like, all right, do we take the field or do we take Serena? Right? It was that crazy. Like I think about like Tiger Woods, just very few athletes. Muhammad Ali probably even. I didn't grow up watching him, but I feel like there's very few that would be in that echelon, so to speak. So Serena Williams definitely on my Mount Rushmore of women. Number 2, this was an easy one actually for me as well as Serena Williams was. Katie Ledecky. Like if you don't know Katie Ledecky, go to look her up because she all time great swimmer. Okay, 26 world championships, which is unreal. Like I know she has records from like the 200 meter swim all the way out to 1500 meters. Like I know she was mainly the like 800 meter to 1500 meter was kind of her thing, and I think was it Tokyo? No, it was London. London 2012 was she won London 2012 gold 800 meter at age 15, and then she went on to win like 9 more medals in the Olympics, gold medals in the Olympics. So like Katie Ledecky, y'all, like she was wiping them out. Like at the same time Michael Phelps was doing his thing, Katie Ledecky was on the women's side, absolutely dominating the sport, and it was cool growing up as well, watching her become who she is today. And to me, she's an absolute legend of the game. So I say that for sure. Another one I'm gonna roll with is on the softball side, since this is a softball podcast. I'm rolling with my girl Monica Abbott because Monica Abbott is somebody that is absolutely she's dominated the sport of softball. I mean, when she was at the University of Tennessee, she was the first pitcher ever to have, I think it was 500 strikeouts in each of her seasons, freshman, sophomore, junior season, senior seasons. And I think she tallied over like 2,400 Ks throughout her time at University of Tennessee. Obviously, her number 7 has been retired there. She won multiple medals and events with the U.S. national team. And I had to look it up to figure out what the equivalent was. Of course, she's got the Guinness Book of World Record. I say, of course, I know this, but 77 miles per hour is the Guinness Book of World Record for fastest pitch in a pro fast pitch softball game. Of course, on the women's side, I know we got men's fast pitch coming along now. But the equivalent, for those of you who need a baseball pitch reference, that's roughly, now I had to go to a different couple of different sources on this. That's roughly 108 miles per hour from the baseball mound. Okay, pitcher's mound, baseball, 60 foot 6 inches. Pitcher's circle, softball wise, is 43 feet. All right. So again, that equivalent 77 to 108, that's humming it. I don't know if I've ever seen a major league baseball pitch thrown in my lifetime over like 103, 104. I think about Randy Johnson, Steven Strasburg, Aroldis Chapman. Those baseball names right there are some that I think about, that who were heavy hitters, heavy closers, so to speak, in the game of baseball. And Monica Abbott's out here touching 77 like it's nobody's business. So anyway, she comes in at number 3. And this is the one where I'm like, dare I say, is she the GOAT of all female athletes? And I would love to hear the debate about this one. And it's my girl Simone Biles, y'all. Like, Simone Biles, what can I say? Like, she is the most decorated gymnast of all time, male or female. 37 medals, I believe it is, and 20 something of those are gold, right? Like, she's won in multiple different events. Obviously, who she is off the mat is just something special. All of these women that all of these women that I've mentioned today, they're incredible outside of their sport, obviously. But dude, Simone Biles, man, like, she's a specimen, and she is an incredible. From what I've read about her, she's an incredible human being, but also just obviously what she has poured into the sport, and what she has meant to gymnastics as a whole is unbelievable. So that would be my Mount Rushmore: Serena Williams, Katie Ledecky, Monica Abbott, and Simone Biles. I've got some honorable mentions in there as well. Like, I think about Candace Parker. She was an incredible basketball player as well. I know there's plenty of other older legends as well of their respective sports. But anyway, let me know what you think about that in the comment section. Who would be your Mount Rushmore of female athletes? We're going to take a quick break, though. I'm going to jump back in and share with you just a quick update on the latest of D1 college softball. I'll give you some tidbits about just the game itself, the mechanics of your swing. I know that's something that some of you listeners have asked me about previously, and so I want to be able to share with everybody here in just a bit. So give me 1 second, and we'll take a quick break. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. So I'm gonna give you guys a quick D1 college softball update, like we've been incorporating into our show each and every single week throughout the season. I think what is this, week 7? Whew, season's flying by, y'all, but it's still awesome. So of course you got the same names near the top, right? You got Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Stanford, Duke, LSU, Oklahoma State, Florida, Washington. They're all in there. Okay, but I want to zero in real quick on Duke, because they've really impressed me. Like, I got an opportunity to finally actually watch them for real against Florida State, who's still ranked in the top 20. I think they're 15 or 16 right now. But they took 2 out of 3 from Florida State, with that third game being an extra innings match. But Duke is 26-3 right now. I think they had a 3-0 loss at the very beginning of the season to Oklahoma. Obviously, they dropped one to Florida State here recently. I think they got one more to loss in there somewhere. So I mean, they're a solid ball club. They're perfect at home right now, and honestly, they're one of the hottest offenses in the country. I think they've got like 6 or 7 players or more even in double digits in RBIs. They're still in bases at a fairly high clip for most teams, and again, they've kicked off ACC play, taking down again my early season pick of the team that would knock off Oklahoma and Florida State. Florida State isn't looking as good as I thought they would this year, but either way, like, Duke is right there, and they're about to kick off a weekend series this weekend with Virginia Tech, I believe it is, who is also a nationally ranked team. So we'll see what Duke looks like this weekend. But man, a lot of great college softball going on. As I encourage you every single week, like go turn on the TV. If you don't have time to watch the full game, go to YouTube. They put the highlights on there, condense it down to 9-10 minutes, and it gives you an opportunity to really enjoy some of the excitement of the game. If not, if you can't turn on TV, man, go see a game. Go see a game. So if you're not already playing in tournaments on your own or what have you. So to take a little bit of a pivot, though, I want to talk a little bit about the college scene in terms of the college coach relationship with incoming recruits and other people who may be helping incoming recruits on their behalf. And this is more of a not really a news flash, but more like a hey, just FYI to college coaches. Okay, and the FYI is I just believe that the more accessible you can be as a college coach. I can't believe I'm giving advice to college coaches right now, but this is just my experience, okay, from just working with coaches in general. I just believe the more accessible you are, the better your odds are of gaining an opportunity to work with great players and great young women. And this and men, baseball side as well. And I say that because the coaches that I've gotten an opportunity to meet and work with on behalf of some of my travel ball, I've coached a travel softball team. Many of you who listen to the show regularly, you know that. But I've got an opportunity to help plenty of our girls, have an opportunity to play at the next level, right? So I'm working with college coaches. We're connecting, just handing the baton off, whatever, doing what we can do to be able to help girls get to that next level, but not only get there, but make sure that the money's on the table and it's a right fit, yada yada yada, right? But I know the coaches who are accessible via text, phone call, responsive emails, those types of things, like they're the ones who get an opportunity, in my opinion, to work with more people, right? Which means you get to see more players. Therefore, you have a bigger net you can cast, right? Versus the coaches who, are kind of just very like, it's got to be this way, and you barely check your email even, and it's you're never really getting back to players when you're supposed to, or you leave them on red for 2 months at a time or whatever. Like again, I think for us as coaches, and this is just from an adulthood standpoint, I'm not a college coach, but I am a coach, and I'm somebody who respects time, whether it's my time, your time, a kid's time, right? We respect time. And I think the best thing that we can do in terms of setting an example for these young men and women is letting them know, one, I hear you, I see you, right? I may not be able to respond every time, right? But we know you exist. But also, if there's an engagement and conversation there, you want to make sure that you're getting back to these players in a reasonable manner, right? Unless you're in season. When you're in season, I totally get it. Like you guys, coaches, you're locked in as I am, right? Right, but you're locked in way more than I am. I play 12, 13 tournaments a season throughout, March through July. Whereas college coaches, I know you guys are diving into like 50 plus games from February through the end of April, right? So you got like 50 games in 90 days or whatever. So that's a lot of ball to be played. However, my point being though is that I know some amazing coaches out there who make the time to get back with their prospective athletes. They set dates, they set times, they set visits with them, and they're proactive in making sure that the student athlete is feeling welcomed prior to their arrival to campus. I think it's not easy, but it's way easier to make somebody feel welcomed when they arrive. But what about the before and the after in terms of your conversations via text, call, email? So that's all I got on that. That would be my encouragement, right, to college coaches, or even I guess it's high school coaches or private school coaches or travel ball coaches or whoever it is that may be out on the recruiting trail, so to speak, for new athletes. Like make sure that you're communicating effectively, just as we're always trying to implore our players to communicate it effectively with you guys, right? And on that note, players understand coaches have a lot going on, right? They got a lot on their plate. They're trying to do recruiting. They're trying to, schedule practices. They're trying to schedule buses and meals and, fundraise. And they've got a lot of hats that they wear. They're trying to drag the field, cut the grass. There's a lot going on. And some of these programs out here, they don't have a whole slew of assistant coaches on staff, right? It may be a head coach and that's it, or it may be one helper, an assistant, and that's about it, right? So there's a lot going on, and not a lot of people to share the load, so to speak. So, but that being said, you got to have patience, have a little bit of grace. Don't completely write off a college coach because he or she didn't get back with you, as fast as your boyfriend does, right? You want to make sure that hopefully your boyfriend gets back to you quickly. But my point is that I tell my players, hey, give that coach the 72-hour grace period. And if you haven't heard back in 72 hours, reach back out again, whether it be the same method or another method or whatever, just to follow up, because they may have overlooked it. You may have sent that message while they were game planning a practice or doing something else that was important, and they didn't get a chance to get to you right away. So all that to be said, it's a two-way street. But players, make sure you're doing that consistently, and again, understanding that timing and being respectful of each coach communication that you're having. You know what I mean? So, and I think the other thing on that for players is I think it's a good idea to be brief as possible. Like, we don't need to be writing the entire soliloquy or an entire book to a coach. When it comes to communicating with, like, just be brief, especially if it's a follow up. Like, they already know who you are, I assume. If they don't know who you are, you've already written that initial intro message, or made that initial intro phone call or text or whatever. So the follow-ups that come after that should be way more brief than that initial one. So that would be my encouragement to you guys on that front. I hope that makes sense. I hope that can give you a little bit of a value add on that front. So as I mentioned before the previous break, now I'm going to go over the mechanics of your swing. I'll get into our open book segment as well. And of course, we'll wrap up the show with a thought you should know moment. So we'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome to the show one last time. So I'm going to jump in right before we go to the open book segment here. I'm going to jump into just the mechanics of the swing. I've got a 10U pitcher that I've been working with on the pitching side of things, obviously, but she's asked me just a little bit to talk her through some hitting things and making sure that she's good to go for her next few tournaments and such like that. And I felt like the basic thing for us as hitters, obviously, is that we want to make sure that we understand the basic mechanics of our swing, right? And so obviously the swing starts with the load, right? That swing starts with the load. Obviously, I'm not gonna dive into the footwork and the hands and all that right now, but just talking about the swing itself, there has to be some type of a loading mechanism right there, even if it's very slight. If it's a foot, if it's that front foot taking a step forward, um, if it's the hands moving back, whatever that may be, starting with some type of a load, it helps with your timing, those types of things as well, to be able to get going. And we're also pinning up that energy, basically, right, to be able to explode through the ball from there. So again, I typically have a nice light, very light load. I take that front foot, and you're almost pretending like you're about to step on an eggshell, right, without wanting to break it. So you want to be light with that front side. On that front, we don't want to leak that front shoulder when we load. So boom, we load there. I take the hands back, and then we kind of go to what I call a shooting position, or basically we've got that knob now coming from that load position, coming facing the pitcher at this point, right before the point of contact, right? And so after the shoot, we're going to take that barrel around and get to the point of contact. And this is an important part, because for me, the POC, or the point of contact, is where you are about to initiate you're about to unload your full strength on this ball, right? When you get to the POC, you want to make sure that your top hand is still able to extend, beyond the point of contact, right? So I'll typically talk to my players about, when you get to the point of contact, if I take the bat out of your hands, can you still punch forward with power, right? Because a lot of times, especially younger hitters, will be fully extended and they almost have their arms completely locked out at the point of contact. Well, there's no power from there, right? Because you can't extend from that point, right? So at the POC, make sure you've got some power left, right? By having that arm, basically you're not on video. If you can't see me on video if you're listening to this on Spotify or Amazon. But either way, you want to make sure that you're not completely locked out, right? Then we get to the extension, right? And then we get to follow through, a nice clean follow through. A lot of folks will, they'll drop that barrel with that top hand, and they'll only follow through with one hand. I've seen very few softball hitters be successful with that. So I typically say get to that extension point, dang near to follow through before we lose that top hand and finishing our swing. So that would be how I'd break down load, shoot, contact, extension, follow through, and make sure that again that we're balanced once we're following through. So that would be my little quick lesson on the mechanics of your swing. All right. So let's jump here into the open book segment. I've got 3 questions for you guys. As always, I appreciate you guys submitting these. And so this first one here is from Edwin R. And Edwin says, how do I help my daughter with better accuracy when she's pitching? And I think this is a good question. I think there's a lot of different things that we can do when it comes to pitching accuracy, especially with younger ones. You know, Similarly to our batting situation, we want to first focus on the mechanics, right? Where does that, are we getting a good strong rotation? Are we slowing our arm speed down, or is it speeding up too much? Are we consistent with that? What does that release point look like, right? Are we releasing too soon, therefore the ball's diving into the dirt? Are we releasing late, the ball's shooting halfway up the back screen right there, right? So there's a lot of different things that we can focus on that front, but I would break this down to make sure our mechanics are on point, which obviously comes from you know repetition, lessons, things like that. Make sure that you're practicing consistently with what you're doing. I firmly believe pitching requires the most amount of work in our game today. You can't just casually be a pitcher. Like, you really have to put in so much more time and energy and effort than every other position on the ball field. In my opinion, I could be wrong about that, but I'm also a pitcher, so I'm a little biased. But either way, my point on that front is that mechanics are big, release points big, practicing consistently is big, and then once you're able to have those mechanics down, have a target practice. I think that's big, because if you give your pitchers, young pitchers, old pitchers, whatever, if you give your pitchers a target, I just believe in aim small, miss small, right? So if you give me a target to hit, I can really zero in and dial in on that a lot better than I can of just throwing into an entire bow net or against a brick wall, or whatever the case may be. So I know that you can go out and you can buy those little 9 squares that basically serve as a strike zone. Honestly, you can be cheap and just grab some tape and do the exact same thing. Put that inside your bow net, and now you've got a little strike zone going that he or she can be looking at and hitting, right? So, I think that would be my biggest first step to take when it comes to focusing on the accuracy. And again, that the velocity is going to be what it's going to be right now today. We can focus on that later, but if you can't throw strikes, whether you're young or old, then you're really putting your team and yourself in a really tough spot as a pitcher. So hopefully that helps on that front. Next question is from Denise F. And she says, is there any advice on dealing with in-game pressures? So yes, absolutely there is. I think there's a couple of things that we can do on that front. One, it's so funny. K-Mac, I don't know how much K-Mac listens to the show, but I've mentioned K-Mac's name like a heck of a lot these days, it seems like. But K-Mac this past weekend, so we had a tournament this past weekend. We went 2-1, won our 2 pool games, dropped our first bracket game by 2 runs, I believe it was, to a solid team. But K-Mac in that second pool game, we're down at the time, maybe either 4-1, excuse me, 5-1 or 4-0, something like that. It doesn't matter. We're down by a few runs, and she drops a 2-run bomb. All right. If you remember me talking about K Mac at the end of 2023, she dropped like 2 grand slams, pitched a perfect game and a no hitter all in the same day. Okay. Mind you, though, K Mac has ebbs and flows just like everybody else, right? But this particular home run this weekend was pulled to the left side, which I hadn't seen before. She's been hitting the ball opposite field a fair amount, right? Pulls the ball over the fence, left side, boom, bomb. I'm like, whoa, yes, ma'am. Before she takes the plate, all right, she tells me, I just need to breathe. And that's it. She's like, I need to breathe. And so I'm going to take K Mac's advice and share it with the rest of the world here on the show, because I think that's important. And that's a very, very simple thing to do. As you're approaching that plate, from the time you take that first step from the on deck circle and you dig into the plate, take some time to breathe, understand the moment, but make sure the moment you're not bigger than the moment, and the moment's not too big for you, right? And I think that's an important thing to remember, just to breathe, right? The other thing, though, is that, as I've talked about on the pitching side as well, like, focus on the mechanics, right? You don't have to get too caught up in the situation itself, especially if you're struggling, or if you're just trying to hit the ball, right? Just focus on the mechanics that I just talked about. Have a good load, get to shoot, get to the point of contact, barrel up the ball right here. Sometimes I feel like we can overthink what's going on, and I feel like that kind of distracts from what we're trying to accomplish, and now that pressure just really kind of creeps in on us really fast, and before we know it, we're consumed by the pressure of the moment. And I take another example from this past weekend that actually, guys, this is year 6 for me, and this is the first time I've ever dialed this up, and it was perfectly executed by both players. Okay, so we're down 5-4 at the time. I'm pretty sure the clock was about to run out on us pretty soon in this travel ball game, and so I've got Maya, who is an average base runner speed wise, on third base. And I've got Rope, who you've also heard me talk about, who is a very much above average speed wise at the plate. Okay, we got 2 outs down by 1 run. Actually, the timer was not quite running out. I think we actually had an extra inning coming potentially after that, which is why I think I called this card. Yes, that's why I called the card. So I wouldn't have done it otherwise. So anyway, so we got 2 outs, and there's one pitch thrown. I think it's a ball, and there may have been a mound visit. Yes, there may have been a mound visit by the opposing coach, and then this idea popped in my head on the spot. I'm like, you know what? We're gonna try the squeeze play right here. And again, I've never called it because I didn't feel comfortable. I've never really felt comfortable doing it, but I just never felt like it was needed in moments that we've been in, right? So anyway, I'm like, all right, listen, here's what we're gonna do. Maya, you're gonna steal home, straight steal. Again, average speed. But you're gonna steal home here. Rope, you got to get the bunt down. Bottom line, or Maya sit and duck. So when we did this with 2 outs, again, risky, yes, absolutely. I knew I had another inning coming. Rope was in the 2 hole in this particular game. So if it didn't work out, I'm like, fine, we're down by 1 run with a whole another inning to play, and I've got my 3, 4, 5 hole. So I did kind of have a little bit of a cushion in the back of my mind on that front, right? But I wanted to try it. It's a pool game. I'm like, what could hurt, right? Anyway, my point is, Rope perfectly executes the bunt. Maya gets the perfect jump, and so much so that for whatever reason, the catcher comes out past the plate to try to make a play on the ball. They did not have a shot at Rope at first base because the bunt was so beautiful, and because the catcher came out, there was no play to be made at the plate either. So now I've got a runner standing on first base. Maya has now scored and tied the game, and it was an electric feeling. It was an awesome vibe. I loved it. But my point there is that although I didn't put pressure on my players in that moment, I felt like they perfectly executed it because they didn't allow any pressure. The pressure of a one-run ball game, it's late, whatever. They didn't allow any of that to get to them. They just focused on the mechanics of what was supposed to happen. They trusted my call in that moment, and they got the job done. So anyway, super proud of Maya and Rope for knocking that out, and it was really cool to kind of see a squeeze play executed on our side of the ball. So anyway, all that to be said, my advice in a nutshell on handling in-game pressures: just breathe and focus on the mechanics of what you're trying to accomplish. That's that. All right, last open book question here is from Nia H. And Nia says here, what's a good high school batting average to get recruited? This is an interesting one because I think it varies based on maybe what level you're trying to get recruited at. I think, obviously I think a D1 level would require something a lot higher, maybe something in the high fours, even 500. I don't know. But I would say, but an average or a solid batting average to have across the board would be 300. If you're batting 300, and if you don't understand batting averages, 300 would be the same as 30%. Okay, so 3 out of 10 at bats, you got a base hit. Okay, so, but to take that a step further, I feel like there's other metrics that we can use to measure productivity, right? So I just talked about the mechanics and focusing on the mechanics so that you're not having to focus on, being perfect or whatever, which I'll talk about here in a second. Um, you want to make sure here in this scenario that your on base percentage is something that is high, right? I feel like our on base percentage, a solid one to get recruited with, is probably 400 or better. Okay. And that just says, hey, I'm on base 4 out of 10 times, no matter what. Like whether that's by way of base hit, fielder's choice, strike three, swing and drop, third strike, whatever, um, walked, hit by pitch, whatever the case may be. However, you can get on base. Are you being productive for your team by getting on base and giving the next batter an opportunity to move you over and even possibly bring you home? So, again, that would be my short tidbit on that front. Before I give you the true thought you should know moment, one of my favorite coaches that I've gotten an opportunity to communicate with, he coaches down at Bruton Parker College, Madison Heron. Got to see him earlier this week, and he talked about the simple idea of being productive without being perfect. And he didn't necessarily elaborate on that completely, as I'm about to now. But when I think about production and perfection, they don't, again, like he mentioned, they don't really always go hand in hand. You don't have to be perfect to be productive. I've seen many people be productive for their teams by simply laying down a sack bunt or producing a sack fly to the outfield, or just simply coming in to be a base runner and stealing bases. Right? There's a lot of ways to be productive on the field without having to be 100% all the time, every day, no matter what. So again, I felt like that was necessarily just to add into the show today, because I feel like sometimes we forget as players and as coaches even that there are ways to make something happen without doing it perfectly. Rope and Maya perfectly executed a squeeze play. However, that is not the only way to be productive, if that makes sense. So, anyway, to give you guys my thought you should know moment of the day, you know, this is a quote, and it's not even a full quote, but this is a thought from Nick Saban, former Alabama football head coach. And he talks about in this video that I saw, I think it was on TikTok, and he talks about getting the right people on the bus and getting the wrong people off the bus. And of course, he's talking about here building a team of success, a team of productivity, a team that has buy-in, a team that's locked in on the same mission and ready to go to battle together en route to accomplishing, in their case, a national championship, right, which he won a lot of there at Alabama. For you, though, personally, I think you can also apply this same theory or the same thought process to your inner circle, which I think is very, very important because for you guys as athletes, as student athletes, not only is your influence, or excuse me, your inner circle one of your greatest influences, but it's also one of your greatest influencers, right? You can influence your inner circle just as it can influence you. Therefore, you want to make sure that the people that you're surrounding yourself with, they're locked in with you in terms of having some of the same goals, same dreams. Um, and I'm not talking about identical goals, but they're looking to go somewhere, right? They're looking to do something better, do more than where they are right now. And so I say that to say, guys, at some point in your lifetime, someone's going to look at you and say, I need them on my bus, right? I hope they would say that about you, right? You don't want to be that person though that people are saying, we need to get this person off of my bus because of XYZ, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to be somebody who can make the people around them better because of your presence. Are you making the team better because you're here? Or are you making the team worse because you're here? And honestly, it can be that cut and dry, right? It can be that cut and dry. That goes with your skill set, that goes with your character, and everything else in between and beyond it, right? So that is my thought you should know moment, guys. Be the type of person that people want on their bus. Keep the type of people on your bus that are elevating you as a person, as a player, the whole nine. So anyway, I've enjoyed this show with you guys. I hope that you have got an opportunity to really engage here with me. And hey, don't forget about that Mount Rushmore. Let me know what you think about your female athletes on the Mount Rushmore, man. Because I tell you, y'all, we've got some amazing female athletes in this world. Those were just like the four that I felt like were the best that I could name in my lifetime thus far. But anyway, I hope you've gotten a bunch out of this show. Please go to my YouTube channel, go to Spotify, leave a review, hit that subscribe button. That's the best way I can say to show some support for the show. I'm always very, very grateful. So I'm going to finish this thing like we always do. Please let everything you do be done in love, because at the end of the day, that is truly what makes the world go round. Thank you all so much once again, and we'll catch you later.